Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome back to Household Drama and Family Secrets. I am Sakina. Today, I am here to share a story about a specific kind of pain, a cold, constant anxiety that grew not from betrayal within my home, but from surveillance just outside my windows. This is a story about privacy invasion. It's about the terrifying realization that your own home is no longer a refuge. It's about the silent war you fight when your neighbor knows every secret of your house. If you are listening today, please, I desperately need your support to share this difficult, necessary truth. The weight of this scrutiny was immense. Please, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share your thoughts. Thank you. The problem began subtly. These things always do. I started noticing small things. My daughter, Canise, would leave for school, and moments later, I would see Mrs. X, our neighbor, looking out her window, always watching the gate. I dismissed it. She's just curious, I thought. She has nothing better to do. But then the incidents began to stack up, creating a pattern. I would discuss a minor household problem with my husband, and the next day, Mrs. X would casually mention a solution or perhaps subtly criticize it. I remember one instance. I was talking to my son Ibrahim about a complicated job application he was filling out. We spoke privately, inside our living room. Later that week, Mrs. X told her friend loudly enough for me to hear, "Oh, Ibrahim, such a determined boy. But I heard his chosen career is highly competitive. A very difficult field. How could she possibly know?" My home ceased to be a sanctuary. It became a stage. I started moving my conversations into the kitchen, then the back room, then whispering. I was scared of my own windows. The silence inside my household was no longer peaceful. It was filled with the assumption of the watchful eyes. My husband found it deeply frustrating. He's a private man. He would get angry. "Sakina, stop being paranoid. She's just looking," he would insist. But I knew the difference between a glance and active surveillance. Even my daughter, Canise, who was still fragile after her own incident, started feeling the pressure. She was terrified that Mrs. X knew about her past or was looking for any new family conflict to gossip about. This scrutiny added immense emotional pain to her already difficult recovery. The breaking point came when the casual gossip turned personal and cruel. Mrs. X started telling others highly distorted versions of our family secrets. She took a small argument between my husband and I and twisted it into a massive husband-wife problem. My friends started asking me, "Sakina, is it true that your husband is planning to leave the country?" I realized the magnitude of the lie she was spreading. She wasn't just observing, she was fabricating and actively trying to damage our reputation. I confronted her. I spoke to Mrs. X directly. She smiled that innocent, terrifying smile and said, "Oh, Sakina, I just worry about you all. I only heard your children discussing it so loudly. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't merely nosy. She was a weapon pointed at the heart of our family life.
The realization that Mrs. X was deliberately spreading malicious gossip was terrifying, but it also spurred us to action. My husband, Ibrahim, and I, we had to formulate a defense. We decided on a counter strategy: absolute silence and controlled communication. We tried the silent treatment. We agreed that whenever Mrs. X was visible near her window, we would immediately stop talking, move away from the windows, and use only English phrases that were too formal or innocuous for her to twist. My son, Ibrahim, thought it was ridiculous. He laughed. A quick, stressed chuckle. Ibrahim, Mother, this is insane. We are living in our own house, whispering because of one nosy neighbor. We are letting her control our everyday struggle. He was right. The silence didn't stop the gossip. It fueled it. Mrs. X would then tell people, "Oh, the family next door is fighting terribly. They don't even speak to each other anymore." Our controlled communication was misinterpreted as immense family conflict. We were losing the battle without saying a word. The constant feeling of being watched began to erode our peace. Our household problems were magnified tenfold. Every small argument between my husband and I was conducted in whispers, behind locked doors, adding an unbearable tension to our family life. I found myself snapping at my own children unnecessarily. I was constantly on edge, jumping every time I heard a sound from next door. I felt a deep, overwhelming emotional pain, the feeling that my private self, my true self, was being stolen and judged. Even my daughter, Kenise, who was actively trying to rebuild trust, became withdrawn again. She was terrified that Mrs. X would uncover her past incident, the running away, the betrayal, and use it as ammunition. The simple act of living together peacefully became an immense effort. She started avoiding going outside entirely. I realized then the insidious nature of privacy invasion. It doesn't just steal information. It steals your ability to be yourself. It forces you to perform even in the supposed sanctuary of your own home. The quiet stress caused by those watchful eyes was more damaging than any loud argument we ever had. We reached a point where we couldn't cope internally. My husband finally suggested seeking help. We spoke to other neighbors, but they were either too afraid of Mrs. X or too indifferent to get involved in our relationship drama. We even considered legal intervention, but the lawyer told us, "You have no proof she is trespassing or directly threatening you. Curiosity is not a crime." The law offered no protection against her silent, psychological warfare. I stood there realizing we were completely alone. Our dignity, our privacy, our peace, it all lay exposed to one malicious, relentless woman who had nothing better to do than collect our household secrets. I was physically safe, but psychologically, my home was under siege. After weeks of fear and whispering, I hit a turning point. I was tired of being the victim of the watchful eyes. I realized that our family's strength was not in silence, but in controlling our own narrative. We couldn't stop Mrs. X from looking, but we could stop her from destroying us emotionally. I looked at my husband, defeated and tired. I looked at my children, fearful and isolated. I realized my role as the mother was to be the shield and the sword. My sorrow turned into a cold, fierce determination. My son Ibrahim saw the change. "Mother," he said, "if we ignore her, she wins. We need to be so loud with our truth that her whisper is irrelevant. He was right. We instituted the truth protocol. We stopped hiding our household problems. If we had an argument, we would ensure it ended quickly and publicly with a hug, showing that the family conflict was manageable and temporary. We chose transparency. I finally decided to tackle the worst lie Mrs. X had fabricated. The rumors she spread about my husband planning to leave the country because of our supposed financial ruin? This was the most direct threat to our stability. I walked over to her house, something I had avoided for months. I didn't shout. I just delivered a statement of fact. Mrs. X, I know you are spreading false rumors about my husband's job. My husband is working as the senior director at a stable international firm. If you continue to spread these malicious lies, I will involve the authorities for defamation. I am defending my family. She tried to smile that innocent smile, but it faltered. She saw the new strength in my eyes. For the first time, she saw a defender, not a victim. The confrontations didn't stop her from looking entirely, but they changed the atmosphere. The fear left our home. Connis started going outside again, knowing her mother had put a stop to the worst of the gossip. I learned that the greatest source of emotional pain was not the neighbor herself, it was our own secrecy. By choosing to whisper, we allowed her simple glance to become a powerful weapon. By choosing to speak the truth and defend our integrity, we dismantled her power. The everyday struggle didn't vanish, but we gained an invaluable life lesson. You have the power to define your own story. Never let the watchful eyes of the world make you ashamed of your truth. We have reached the end of this journey against the watchful eyes. My household is quieter now. We regained our peace, but I must tell you, the experience left an enduring scar. I became acutely aware of how much energy we wasted caring about external judgment. I learned that the neighbor's scrutiny was only successful because we feared the judgment she represented. We feared revealing our true household problems or our moments of family conflict. This fear, this constant need for external approval, is the true weakness she exploited. My son Ibrahim often reminded me, "Mother, Mrs. X is fighting for entertainment. We are fighting for reality. We must stop giving her the material she needs." He was right. I still glance at her window sometimes. The habit of feeling watched is difficult to break. But now, when I see her, I don't feel fear. I feel pity. She is the one trapped in the cycle of constant surveillance and judgment, missing the beauty of her own life. And this is my final, essential life lesson to every listener who values their home. You must be the fierce guardian of your own sanctuary. Do not let outside opinion dictate your internal emotional temperature. Your family life and your parent-child relationship are sacred. They are not material for gossip or public consumption. When you are suffering emotional pain, turn inward to your loved ones, not outward to the opinion of your neighbor. If you are going through an everyday struggle or dealing with household problems, handle them with dignity and privacy. Do not give the watchful eyes the power to define your truth. That is the ultimate act of self-love and self-preservation. We survived the intrusion, we fought the gossip, and we reclaimed our home. I hope my personal confession can serve as a shield for your own family. Remember that the greatest barrier to your peace is often not the physical problem itself, but the anxiety of being judged while you solve it. Be strong, be private,
Be authentic. Your home is your castle. Defend its peace fiercely.